Konnichiwa minasan and welcome to Chiba, just an hour outside of Tokyo. And in this episode we're going to cover akiyas. Why are there so many akiyas in Japan? Why do Japanese people dislike akiyas? And what are the real dangers with the 9 million akiyas in Japan? Here's one of them. The Japanese government has just shared some alarming new information about a major problem in Japan, the issue of abandoned homes, known as akiya. While countries like Sweden, the US and other parts of Europe are seeing booming housing markets, Japan is facing the opposite situation. They have too many houses and not enough people to live in them, especially as the population dropped by over 800,000 people last year. Currently, there are over 9 million vacant houses in Japan. That means 1 out of every 6 homes is empty. And the number is rising. By 2033, 22 million homes is expected to be empty in Japan. Even now, in bustling urban areas like Tokyo and Osaka, where housing markets are generally on the rise, it's still possible to find and locate abandoned homes just by walking through the streets. This situation is starkly different from what's happening in many other parts of the world, where the demand for housing far exceeds the supply. These empty houses might seem like an opportunity, but they come with their own set of risks and challenges. So, what are the risks and dangers of buying an akiya, an abandoned house in Japan? To better understand, let's hear from a seasoned akiya investor about her experiences and the potential pitfalls of entering this market. So as many of you people know, I buy and renovate akiyas mostly in central Tokyo, turning them into Japandi homes. But in this video we have a very special guest, Saito-san, an experienced Japanese akiya investor. She has a big portfolio of old, abandoned, rundown houses she buys for very cheap. But an unfortunate incident happened just last month, and I would like to show you the Gemba, the place where this incident took place. One of the big dangers with akiyas in Japan. Okay, you might think that we are like 200 miles away from civilization, but we're actually just 70 minutes away from Tokyo, in Chiba, Oami Shirasato, Kujukuri, and the Olympic Beach is just a 20-minute ride away from here. There are also loads of these abandoned houses in central Tokyo as well. And before we'll show you Saito-san's burnt down house, I want to give you an introduction to Saito-san herself. Saito-san!
Hi!
Konnichiwa!
Konnichiwa! My name is Naomi Saito. I'm originally from Fukuoka, but I currently live in Tokyo.
Saito-san is an akiya investor aiming for a 20% return. She bought this house cheaply about half a year ago and had just completed the renovation. She listed the house for rent with a local real estate agent. Unfortunately, she received terrible news. Her investment had burnt down. Fortunately, no one was hurt in the fire. So what are the dangers with akiyas?
The recent one that I experienced was obviously the fire, which I never expected to happen. But most people don't want to have akiyas around in the neighborhood because of that potential danger of, having some crimes, potential fires, and oftentimes termites may just be spreading around the neighborhood. And it just doesn't look good to have akiya in your community, right? To restore houses, I think a lot of neighbors would really appreciate, what you do, because it really changes the atmosphere in the neighborhood, and it's safer, and it just brings the values up in the entire community.
If you were to start your akiya journey from zero, what would you do?
I think the environment is kind of different now, because when I started akiya restoration 3 or 4 years ago, there were fewer investors, and the environment was better. And the cost is getting higher and higher. There's more fierce competition. The cost is getting higher in terms of fire insurance, the cost of construction. There's also labor shortage issue as well. It's very hard to find skilled labor to restore akiya, like carpenters and whatnot. The construction material cost is rising as well. So a lot of inflation is hitting the space. But if you look elsewhere, like outside of country region or big cities like Kansai, there are also abundant opportunities all over Japan. So another big potential risk is earthquakes in Japan. Obviously, there are so many earthquakes happening all the time across the nation. And one of the dangers of having Akiya is that the earthquake could really, collapse those Akiyas, which were not really taken care of. And because the Japanese government changed the code more than 30 years ago, all those houses are not up to the code, if you're talking about abandoned houses. So that's one of the reasons why people do not want to purchase them, because of there's no protection.
And with earthquakes, the house will collapse and then eventually catch fire as well, right?
Exactly.
That's a big risk.
That's a huge risk. And it does happen. It did happen at the Noto Peninsula this year. A lot of the wooden houses, old houses got burned down.
On January 1st, a major earthquake hit Japan's west coast, particularly the Noto Peninsula, causing widespread fires that devastated large parts of the city. Hundreds of lives were lost, thousands were injured, and many were left homeless. Japan's history is marked by catastrophic fires, and even in Tokyo, you can still hear neighborhood associations clapping wooden sticks and shouting the famous "Hi no yojin," which means beware of fire.
All right, Saito-san, should we have a look at your burnt down house?
Sure.
So one of the big dangers with Akiyas is, of course, fires. And Saito-san's house right here just burnt down the last month. One of the big dangers with Akiyas, right?
That's right.
So what happened here?
According to the police, somebody set fire in the next door house right here, and my house got, burned down as a result.
And this was also an Akiya, right?
Yes, Akiya for decades.
And they know it was arson. They know that someone...
That's what they told me, and they don't know who did it.
So we are right now in Chiba, where houses are a little bit further apart. Imagine in Tokyo, where houses are like 30, 40, 50 centimeters apart only. And even the neighboring houses almost burnt down. This house here, this is also an Akiya, right?
Right.
It's crazy.
Had some minor.
Look at this. It's all melted, right? And now you have a big team of construction workers helping you out, cleaning up the mess.
Demolition, yes. They started last week,
Yeah.
and I think they should be finishing up in a few weeks. The biggest challenge is the base.
Okay.
It's going to take a while for them to just clean up the entire mess.
And what is your plan with this? What's happening after?
Right now, I'm trying to figure out what to do with the land, and I don't know. Maybe you can help me out. Right.
So if you have any advice for Saito-san,
Would appreciate it.
please leave us a comment.
Please.
So this used to be a one-story house, right?
Yes, Hiraya.
Hiraya. About 60 square meters?
100 square meters.
Oh, wow.
Yep. Pretty big, actually.
And the most unlucky part is that you were just finished with the renovation.
Right. It was like only several days after the completion of the renovation that this house got burned down. So the timing couldn't have been worse.
So Saito-san here, she is an Akiya investor and she owns houses almost all over Japan, right?
No. Mainly in Kanto region, but me and my husband have renovated maybe more than 20 Akiyas so far in the past 3-4 years.
And this is by far the worst accident that has
The
happened to
biggest
you.
accident I've ever had. Yeah, I have experienced probably most problems that you could imagine, like water leakage, termites, problems with neighbors, I don't know, wild animals or vendors who try to deceive you.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I mean, but this was not one of the things that I could imagine happening to me.
So now, arson in the next door house, the fire spread to your newly renovated house.
Right.
And you were looking for a tenant, but what's the plan now? Like, did you have insurance? Is it possible to insure your Akiya?
Yes, luckily I had some fire insurance covered, but not enough to rebuild a completely new house. So half of the insurance money would go to the demolition, which is quite expensive compared to the ordinary way of, taking down your houses, because the damages, the materials are not recyclable.
So Saito-san has been doing Akiya investing for many years, and she's taught me and my friends a lot. Thank you so much for agreeing on showing us your rundown house, your burnt down house.
My pleasure.
So
Doesn't happen very often.
it doesn't, right?
No.
Luckily. If someone wants to do Akiya investment or buying an Akiya, what do you recommend them to?
Well, first you have to actually look at the actual houses, yourself. Some people just check the websites. Some people just feel like, they're really interested, but they don't want to go out there. But I think you really have to go out there and find the real properties, and that's the first step.
So see it in person instead
Exactly.
of just counting on the pictures, right?
Exactly.
And what do you look for when buying an Akiya? Obviously you don't want to buy a rundown house, but what are you looking for in terms of quality? Are you looking for the area? Are you looking for any dangers?
Well, I do buy rundown houses, and that most people would not want to purchase any of those houses that I purchased because they are full of problems like termites, water leakage, and but it's a fun thing to be able to restore and have the houses to be reborn again.
Revitalize the community as well.
Revitalize the community. That's the pleasure that I'm getting.
I can. She's very passionate, and she always shines up when she starts talking about Akiya investment.
Just like you.
Just like me. Thank you very much. Okay, so now you know why there are so many Akiyas in Japan, and it's kind of hard to understand for a European or an American. But if you visit Japan, especially the countryside, they're literally everywhere, and you can buy them dirt cheap. Saito-san here, her house wasn't more than $5,000. It was supposed to be an investment unit for her, but it just ended up burning down. If you have any questions or if you have any advice for her, please let me know in the comments. And if you want to educate yourself and learn more about Akiyas, how to buy Akiyas and how to profit from them, what other dangers are with Akiyas, please read my book, Free Houses in Japan. Thank you so much for watching my channel and educating yourself and myself about Akiyas in Japan.